Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and yes, I am excited for every single episode, but particularly this episode, because this is for sure going to be probably the realest insights you'll ever get into the world of making money on YouTube. And we are joined by an incredible guest who walks the walk, doesn't just talk the talk, but this is someone who is living the lifestyle. He's running his businesses in a way that I think most people, when they think about success on YouTube, they truly aspire to. And a big forewarning, there's no BS with this guy. He is so transparent. All the stuff that we've seen about how he operates, how he helps others grow, and the channels that he runs, we are all in for a treat because we are joined by the very talented Devon Canup. Devon runs multiple YouTube channels which make passive income every single month and has a record-breaking month of $70,000 in 1 month. How many of us would love to be making that level of revenue? He has since coached over 400 students on how to do the same. And what's really cool about his work is that if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to always be creating content, I don't want my face on YouTube, Devon not only does create a lot of incredible content of his own, and he is on camera a lot, but he really teaches people how to use YouTube automation and to have those faceless YouTube channels that aren't terrible. There's a lot of bad ones out there, but this is someone who teaches people the right way to grow these faceless YouTube channels. We're all going to learn a lot. I'm personally excited about this one, so I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Devon Canup. Hey Devon, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, dude. I love your energy. It's contagious.
Heck yeah. Well, likewise for you. Your content, honestly, I was mind blown from the first second I started watching your videos online. You've got a lot to live up to today, so take us beyond the bio. Who's Devon? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Yeah, my name's Devon Canup. I've been doing business for 8 years now. I was going to school for computer science. I think you have a programming background or something like that, if I did my research right. But I went to school for computer science, and I was really thought that I was going to go, try to, cheat the system of like working my way up the ladder and getting to a really good financial place. And then as I kind of kept talking to more and more people, I became more and more discouraged about, hey, you're going to be doing this for maybe 20 years, at the shortest time frame to work your way up the corporate ladder. And I was just like, that's too long. I just want to make money. I want to figure a way out to live my dream life. And so that led down the spiral of trying all sorts of different businesses, failing out a lot of them, and then finally stumbling across Faceless YouTube, running YouTube channels without being on camera. And I just overnight just had immense amount of success with it. And so now I've been doing that for, like 6-7 years with doing YouTube channels. So yeah, and that brings us to where we are today.
I love that overview. Devon, I will say the first time I heard about faceless YouTube channels, I was like, what the heck is that? I love YouTube. I consume a lot of YouTube content. What is a faceless YouTube channel? We all think about the Mr. Beasts of the world, but walk us through this alternative side of how to run a YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's definitely become a lot more of like a buzzword lately, but ultimately what it is just a YouTube channel without someone being on camera. That really is all it is, which if you watch like any sort of show these days, like they're technically like a faceless show or something like that. Like as in like the person who owns the show is not the person running it. Most people, when you think of a YouTuber, it's like you're kind of the CEO talent role, like doing everything. You're the producer, you're the director, you're the person on camera. And it's just a business approach to running a YouTube channel. So it's just like having a production system rather than purely just being the creator, the director, the editor, and like all these things ultimately.
Yeah, with that in mind, a lot of people will be thinking, well, then what videos am I making? Am I grabbing stock video footage? Like, what does it actually look like? I'll give one example before I toss it back to you. I find myself watching a lot of videos that say like the top 5 places to check out in Florida. And when I moved to the state of Florida, those videos were super valuable to me. It's really valuable content. It's not just scraping the web for garbage content. So that's my personal example, Devon, but I'd love for you to shine even more light on it.
Oh yeah, I think once you kind of get into this world, you come to the realization of just how much opportunity there is. Just as everybody's moving online, it's just like all those hobbies, interests, categories that people are interested in, all is basically a topic that's on YouTube that people are entertained to watch. So I've ran channels in like history where we talk about like weird history, like, what hygiene was like at different time periods, like in ancient Greece or something like that. We've ran like travel channels that talk about, I don't know if we made that video specifically that you watched, but we made a lot of videos like, those where it's like where not to move in Texas, where to move to in Texas. Like a big one is sports. Sports is a huge niche. It's like one of the largest audiences, at least in the US specifically. And so every sport, like basketball to football to hockey to, soccer to MMA to boxing, like all of those, anywhere from like, it could be like a news video to like maybe like a trade, like Luka Doncic was traded recently to the Lakers, and it's like this big thing. To how is the psychology of a sport? It could get really kind of nuanced. To player biographies and documentaries on the athletes or the celebrities, and it just goes on and on of all these different formats that people can make content of, and it's pretty crazy actually just to say. I keep coming up with lists of like niches that people can do. And I think it's gotten to like over 200 different like ways that you can make videos, from space to sciences to health and nutrition to fitness, I even have someone who like did interior design, or even how to fix your appliances. Like those are a little bit harder to do faceless, but it definitely can be done. So yeah, it's all over the place.
Devon, I love how you just literally in real time effortlessly rattled off all of these different niche ideas for videos. As you're listing them, I'm thinking, yep, I watch videos about that. Yep, I watch videos about that. When you called out the Luka Doncic trade, probably we all consumed those. And there's something about the way that these videos are made. You actually listed a type of video that for one reason or another, I can't not watch when it pops up on YouTube. And that is the list of places not to move to, or these are the top 10 worst towns in Florida to live in. I don't know why, Devon. I can't stop watching those. Talk to us about some of those hooks or the secrets behind making that content not just exist, but making it captivating.
Okay, so if you want like the YouTube strategy side of like, how is it not random, to all the people that are like, oh, YouTube's saturated, like there's too much competition. It really is just a formula at the end of the day. And when it comes to YouTube, it really boils down to the idea. If you have a good idea and the market has demand for it, as in like people want to see this, and it could be even something that's even more retro or something that's like 20, 30 years old of an idea and we're bringing it to light today. It doesn't have to be necessarily like a new idea all the time. It's just, it boils down to the idea. What is it that people want to see? Like I saw a video that someone did like the Adam Sandler paradox, or the Friends of Adam Sandler paradox, where it's like all the friends of Adam Sandler, the conspiracy is that like Adam Sandler is actually a really bad actor and he's only really good because of his friends. And because his friends are such bad actors, it makes Adam Sandler look like a great actor. It's like such a random topic. But what it comes down to is having great ideas. And then when you're done with the great ideas, people think, oh, okay, cool, I need to make a great video. Actually, making a great video is the least important part. Then it comes down to, is it packaged well? Does it have a good title? Does it have a good thumbnail? Does it set the expectation, the tone of what people want to see? And then are you just explicitly stating, hey, this is what the video is about after they click on it? Yes, you did get a video on Adam Sandler and his friends and the paradox, as in like, just confirming it and the questions that people have. So for that video, you could do something like, I don't remember what the hook is that they use, but you could do something like, have you ever wondered why Adam Sandler has the same like 5 friends in every single movie that he has? Literally just delivering on the expectations. And then here's the part where everyone's like, oh, I got to make a great video. Just make sure you have interesting stuff to talk about. Like, do your research. Okay, maybe what are all the conspiracies that are around Adam Sandler, which is, again, that he's a terrible actor and his friends make him look like a great actor, to, maybe what do other people have to say that are more professionals in the industry, to, what has it been like to be a friend of Adam Sandler, and what are some of the beautiful side of it, and what's the ugly side of being a friend of Adam Sandler? Like that would just be off the top of my head. And that's really it. Most people, I think, they overcomplicate the process. It's just idea, packaging, which in business is marketing, and then having a good product, which is there substance in your video? And then just making a not bad video, making sure the audio is good. You probably went through a bunch of different softwares to get a good podcast software that works best for you. And it's just probably more so about the audio quality than it is about the visual. And it's just making sure that there's like good substance, having good guests, making sure you have a good process of having good guests on. So it's like having a good idea, good packaging, and then good content inside of there. Like just something that's entertaining, something that's interesting. If it doesn't make you go like, wow, what? That's crazy, then it's probably not good enough to have in the video. And so if you just focus on those three things, there's no reason you can't make viral videos.
Yeah, I love it. Devon, here's the thing though. You make it sound so easy, and I'm sure you hear that all the time. And I always like to remind people, business is not complicated. It's actually a very simple thing. It's been happening for thousands of years. It's just that we like to complicate it. You already called that out. And there are aspects of it that are hard and that require consistency and commitment. Talk to us about the hard side of this world. Why is everybody not doing it, Devon?
Yeah, that's the real trick is like, it's simple. I always say it's simple, but it's not easy. Because if you're not used to coming up with video ideas all day, if you're not used to coming up with packaging ideas, if you're not used to coming up with topics that are interesting to like a mass market, it's the skill sets. To learn those skill sets, there's a learning curve, and that is difficult to overcome, which requires you to be a disciplined person, as in you show up every single day and you don't give up when things get hard after a week or two, to, that you believe that you can be successful. So many people I talk to, they're just like, you can make $20,000 a month? Like, that's impossible. And it's like they eliminate the opportunity before they even get started, before they even try. They already got rid of their chances of being successful. It'd be like, oh, you can become a pro player? That's impossible. It'd be like, or whatever sport or world or industry that you're in. It's like cutting off the opportunity before it even starts. And then what it really boils down to is just coming up, like spending a lot of time, seeing what people are watching, and ask yourself, how can I do that again? If you're not on YouTube a lot and you don't see what is going viral a lot, and you're not like studying, you're not looking at what's working, then you're going to have a really tough time. And what it really boils down to is like the hard work for this is like, you just got to spend like probably a month of looking at YouTube every single day, and you'll start to recognize the patterns. But most people have a tough time even getting to that place of where they just look at the thing every single day. It's like the stock market. If you look at the stock market every day, you're going to start recognizing patterns. You're going to realize, oh, wow, when this news article comes up, the stock goes up. Or when a news article like this with the negative connotation goes out, it goes down. And so it's like, oh, okay, on days like, days of the week that are like this day, usually this happens. And you start to recognize all these like nuanced patterns by just looking at the charts every single day. Same with YouTube. You just look at it every day. You're going to become a viral video expert pretty naturally by just looking at it all the time. We always get like a lot of younger people, if they're on social media all the time, they just crush it because they're used to they know what's a viral video just off of intuition because they just look at YouTube all the time. And so if you're not on YouTube all the time, that's fine. We have people that have never made a YouTube video, never even watched a video. Maybe they watch 10 videos in their entire life, and they'll have success with this. And that's just because they're just willing to learn. They're willing to eat shit for a little bit, which is just realizing that you suck at everything and just realizing that you can get better. It's not nothing against your character. It's just a skill issue. And so you can always get better at skills by just putting more time into the thing. So it's ideas. And then because we're doing this faceless method, which means you don't need to make the videos, you don't need to edit the videos, you don't need to have any tech skills. It means finding good, talented people that can make the videos for you. And so that requires the same as like figuring out what are good viral video ideas. It just requires you talking to lots of freelancers and figuring out who's full of shit and who are the people that are like legitimate, they're good at like, they actually know what they're talking about. They walk the talk. They've worked for other competitors, and just getting them to work for you instead of like other people. So if those two things, if you can just spend lots of time recognizing patterns on the ideation side, and then spend lots of time recognizing patterns on the hiring side, if you just put lots of hours into those two things, that's the difference of someone that's like barely able to get like a couple thousand views on a video on YouTube versus somebody that's making like 50, 60, 80,000, $100,000 a month on YouTube is just, their time around ideation and making sure they have good people to make the videos for them.
Yeah, I love that, Devon. The way that you're spelling it out for us, it's so clear to me that you are a big fan of leverage and scale. You understand that if you have this amount of resources, you can turn it into a greater amount of resources by executing properly. A lot of people don't necessarily have that healthy and that growth mindset that you have as an entrepreneur, and they're probably thinking, I'm going to have to hire people. How much money is that going to take? What sort of resources am I going to need? How do you navigate them through those questions?
Yeah, I mean, there is all of these like, but I always start off with the answer on that one of like, okay, if you're realistically going to go pursue making $30,000 a month, and you've only ever, made $5,000 in your life in a month, or maybe even 10,000. It's like, do you feel like that pursuit is going to be just like a walk in the park and going to be easy? And if you're really committed to the goal of whatever it is, whatever financial goal, and it's out of the means of what you're used to, it's like, do you feel like you doing the same thing that you're doing now is going to get you that same outcome? And so the answer is obviously no. You got to do something different. And the work laid out, if you like, because I've just talked to like thousands of people that are making a ton of money on YouTube at this point. If you boil it down, they're just really good at ideation and really good at hiring people. So if you're probably not doing that every single day right now, and that's why you're not making $50,000 a month, you're not coming up with ideas of YouTube channels and videos to make, and then you're probably not coming up with all day, talking to people that can make the videos. As you just start to do that every single day, you just commit to doing that for the next year. If you commit to doing it for the next 2 years, I would be very blown away that you're not very successful at doing this. The issue is just most people kind of like, they're like, oh, it's new to me. I've never done this before. It's like, oh, this is scary. This is hard. But so is riding a bike. So is talking to a cute girl that you see outside on the street. And, it might feel scary, but, as you talk to pretty girls more and more, you get more used to it. So is like asking for that raise at your company, or getting the promotion, or getting accepted into a college, or whatever it is that you've done in your life. You probably have some sort of like realization, like you have things that you've overcome in your past that you've never done before. And what you did is you probably prepared, you probably watched some YouTube videos, you probably talked to some counselors, you probably talked to some people that have already done it before, and then you went and did the thing. And with making money, with the skill set of making money, and with the skill set of making videos that get massive amounts of views, and building a business that runs on autopilot, once you have the team and the systems down, are all the same thing. There's no difference, really. It's just new to you. It's just different. And you don't have it's not like you grew up with like knowing 20 people that are just making money online. And the people that you do meet that, they're like there's like 16 and they're making like 2 million a month. I know a couple of those where they just grew up. They're just, all of their family is like, they grew up, their dad was like an entrepreneur in e-commerce and something. And so all they knew was business. You just didn't. You just weren't blessed with that. And that's, in a way, it's your advantage, because that means you get to learn from the ground up, and you just have to change your habits and you change your patterns, which is scary to a lot of people. And so this isn't for everybody. If you want to like just making money, especially yours is like an entrepreneur to entrepreneur podcast. So if you're the person watching this podcast and you want to make that jump, that really is what it is. It's just being like, hey, I suck at all this, but who are the people that don't suck at it? And how can I just suck a little bit less every single day? And it's going to be scary no matter what it is. Like, I still have a tough time. Like, I was telling my buddy, it's like, I have this guy who makes like $20 million a year. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how to text this guy. Like, I'm just like, I'm like, I don't know how to message these people. So I'm like asking my friends for advice. I'm like, hey, what do I say to this guy? Or whenever I meet people that are like highly successful, I'm still like a little bit like, dude, what do I say to these people? It's like, yeah, maybe I make a few $1 million a year, but it's like, this person makes like 10 times more than me. What do I say to them? Even though it's probably the same circumstances, what things were before. So it's at all stages realizing that there's always going to be this discomfort, and just realizing you have to overcome that discomfort.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you called that out for our listeners, Devon. I think about it all the time. Podcasting is the exact same. We could apply this advice to literally any industry. People always ask me, how did you have a successful podcast? And I'm like, honestly, I had no idea what I was doing, but you do it 100 times, 500 times. Now we're more than 1,100 episodes into this. And I think if you do most things 1,000 times, you will become good at it.
Yeah, you probably look back at your first like 5 episodes or whatever. You're like, what was I on? Like, what was I doing? What was I even thinking? I was like terrible. Yeah. But you have to be that person at one point in time to get to the person where you are today, where you've just done this 1,100 times now.
Yeah, it's true. When I look back at it, I'm just like, what was I thinking even hitting publish? Like, I'm crazy for thinking that was good enough. But I mean, you're right. To your point, the only way you get there is through learning, through recognizing those patterns, and you get better at it over time, especially through reps. So Devon, I've got to ask you this question at this point in the interview, because I know that a lot of people are screaming at their speakers saying, how the heck does this stuff turn into money? How do you actually make money with this stuff? A lot of people probably don't understand the monetization strategies behind content. So walk them through, how the heck do you make money from YouTube?
Yeah, and I can move over to a more practical aspect of it in this. After doing this for like 8 years now, and then coaching people for like 5 years, it always comes down to like, people always want the tactics, but it's always just like, they don't even believe they can even make the money. So, or then they don't do the work. But how it comes down to making money is YouTube is owned by Google, which is like the biggest website in the world, if you don't know. And so YouTube is actually like the second largest search engine. It actually just overcame Netflix for viewership on television, crazy enough. So actually people watch more YouTube in America than they do Netflix now on their TVs. And so how it works is there's essentially three parties that are involved when it comes to YouTube. There is the creators. There are advertisers that are like, hey, wow, these people get lots of attention. I want my product to be in front of them, or my service, or like us, our name. And then there's YouTube, the platform itself. And so YouTube is a really cool platform. They're kind of like the people that are like spearheading this and still the best at it out of all the social media platforms, which is they share a large percentage of what they make to the creators. And they're like the most open, the most public about it, the most like matter of fact of like how this works. And they have the best customer support and service around it, which is they share 55% of the ad plays that happen on your video. So Brian's going to post this video onto YouTube, and then he's going to, if he's in the YouTube partner program, which it only requires 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time. If he's in it, then he'll get like 55% of the money that he makes on this thing. And so typical money that's made, if he's in the entrepreneurship niche, I bet he'll see anywhere from, if he's not doing it right, probably $10 to $15 per 1,000 views. But I bet on some of his videos, he sees like $30, $40, $50 per 1,000 views that he makes. So if a video gets 1,000 views, he makes $50. If a video gets 1 million views, then he made like 50 grand, which would be incredible. You just got to make some more viral videos. But yeah, so what they do is they just share a percentage with their creators. So of the advertising dollars that's made on the videos.
Yeah, I love that. Devon, as someone, my very first business was a soccer blog. And so this is all the way back in 2008 before AdSense was really a thing. And it was fun because we would negotiate advertising deals directly with advertisers back in the day. And the fact that today you can just publish things and Google will fill that inventory for you and display ads on your content means that you don't have to build ads into it. You don't have to do any of those things, which allows you to do your genius, which we have seen in real time here today, which is so much fun to hear about. I want to put you on the spot here because you and I talked about this before we hit record together, and you don't realize, I mean, I know that you love this stuff, but you don't realize how important it is for us behind the scenes. A concept that I've always labeled, I was introduced to it as hoes versus bows. Now, hoes are hobby owners and bows are business owners. And a lot of people, when they become entrepreneurs, they actually become hoes rather than bows. And I know that the same is true in your industry. Devon, please talk directly to the audience about those hobbyists versus someone like you who says, wait, I'm not doing this for fun and I'm not doing it just to create fun content. I'm doing this to run a business. I want to tap into that executive mind of yours, that business owner mind of yours, and understand what's different about the way that you operate these YouTube channels.
Yeah. And I think that boils down to like knowing what's in store for you specifically. And I think that's an evaluation of like, Sigmund Freud talks about we're motivated by two things, and that's either by pain or by pleasure. And so we're either repelled from pain or we're moving towards pleasure. And any sort of like motivational, like change your life, like advice always comes down to like, it boils back down to these basic principles of just like, okay, are we moving away from something or are we moving towards something? Whether you listen to Tony Robbins or whoever you listen to. And so if you like your job and you have a good time there, that's one of those things where it's like you're going to have these more like hobbyists doing things where they're just like, hey, I'm just, just doing this for fun. And I just want a couple extra bucks. And I think it's just being honest with yourself. I think just being like, okay, hey, am I good with being complacent, or am I good with being comfortable with my current life and just sticking with that for the rest of your life? Which is fine. It's just like as Warren Buffett always talks about, is understanding the consequences to those decisions. That's an easy decision. It's just the secondary and the tertiary consequences that come with that is then, you're going to work your way up for a corporate ladder for a long time. You're very subject to like layoffs and, whatever happens with that company. You're also very subject to, all it takes is your company to get acquired that you're working for. And then now you have new management, and then now you're subject to that management to, if like AI really does take over, then you're kind of subject to, if AI does replace your job, now you have to acquire new skill sets to be able to still be good at your job. So, which is fine. It's just like, if that's what's good in the books for you, then that's cool. It's just being honest with yourself. I think most people, they make that decision without really paying attention to the secondary, tertiary consequences, and the time isn't yours too if you have kids and stuff like that. So it's another consequence. So it's like being really honest with yourself on what does that life consist of, because if you're like me, you'll come to the realization that, okay, what is it that I can do to never have to do that for the rest of my life? Because it's like, I saw my grandpa work like whatever, I think it's like 45 years now, 48 years, and he has very little left over for retirement. He poured his heart and soul into his company for like 30 years, and then once I got acquired by Mitsubishi, they just laid off everybody in the company. And so all this work that he built up and all this relationship with his boss and like all this stuff, and trying to finally get all the way up to the board finally, just got wiped off entirely. And he comes to the end of his life. He did okay. He has a nice house and all this stuff, but he can't do more. He can't like donate to his church what he wants to donate. He can't like do the things for his family and for his kids that he wants to do. And he's kind of like in this like almost like selfish position in a way where all he has is just kind of his word and his wisdom, which is, it's forcing him to sharpen that like a really strong axe. So it cuts really strongly and he's able to make the impact on his later years that he wants to make. But, if he didn't, he had good intentions, but he didn't invest that time into the things that I think would have set him up to where I think he wants to be today, which is fine. It's just you kind of have to play with the cards that you're dealt. But if he looked back like 40 years ago and listened to this podcast, he would have realized that, hey, this probably isn't the right direction if this is like the man that I am and the man that I want to be and the legacy that I want to leave. And so it's like, whatever it is for you, just you need some sort of reason to like hate the life that you're living, which is fine to not hate it necessarily, or be extremely drawn to the pleasure of where you want to go. I was listening to this really good video from Myron Golden. He's actually at this ClickFunnels event I'm at. Really cool dude. But he was talking about there's like 4 different levels of motivation. There's like money motivation, which is the lowest form of motivation that's actually out there. And most people are money motivated. They're like hustlers. This is where you see hustlers. This is where you see people do like weird stuff for money. It's where I think like OF is such a big thing and stuff like that. So many people are just money motivated. They're like whatever it takes to make the money, and they sacrifice their values, they sacrifice their purpose, all these things just in the efforts of making money. And I know you watching this podcast are not one of those people, and that's why you're here, and that's why you like watching this, and then why you like hearing all the incredible guests you have on here, and why you attract a certain crowd. But just knowing that, okay, when you hear people hunting for money, a lot of times, and why it's a negative thing is because they're more money motivated than anything else. Then I always, I forget the third one, but I remember number 2 is value motivation. So it's motivated by your values. Number 3 is value motivation. So the third level of motivation, the third highest rung is value motivation. So it's like, okay, I'm going to do this thing because I value it. If you're going to only do the things that you value, then that means like providing to society, to do your job and to do all those things. And it's only going to get you so far. As soon as like things, anything that's outside of your value, which is like pulling you to do greatness or to do something entirely different, you're kind of really not that motivated. So it's only going to last so far, which is why a lot of people stay at their job. They're like, oh, I'm not money motivated. They're usually more valued motivated. And then the second one is mastery motivation. So the second highest tier is, so like now that you've done this podcast, you've done 1,100 episodes, you're just like hyped to do another podcast because you're good at it. And because you're good at it, you're just like more excited to do this thing. And because you just did it a week ago and you learned something new, you watched a Joe Rogan episode and you broke it down. You're like, oh, wow, I really love how Joe asks questions like this. You're like, it all like funnels into itself. And as you get good at something, and everybody can probably relate to this, they probably played some sort of sport, a musical instrument or something. It's just as you kind of like started to learn playing chess or whatever, you find yourself just getting more and more motivated. And then the top motivation that fuels all of this though, and that can then direct all these other motivations is actually purpose-driven motivation. So is it like, your daughter came to you and said, Mommy, why don't I ever get to see you? You're at work all day. I never get to spend time with you. Or is it that, you know that your gifts and your talents are meant for a greater purpose and that, you feel like you can do so much more for the world and you've kind of like kept yourself so stayed back and so reserved because you're afraid of what other people think of you. You're afraid of failing. You're afraid of doing everything wrong and all this stuff. But if you have a strong enough why and a strong enough vision and a strong enough purpose, anything, whether if it's like spending all day researching YouTube topics, if it's spending all day hiring people, you're going to do it anyways because you don't have a choice. If you have like a gun to your head mentality, which is kind of an intense visual that I always use, is like I imagine like a guy has a gun to my head and it's like, hey, you have to do this work by this time. I'm like, I find a way to do it. Maybe a less intense visual for this is just like find something that's your unfair advantage in your life. Maybe it was your boss told you that you weren't good enough. Maybe it was your mom told you weren't good enough or something. Or maybe there was somebody special in your life that was just like, hey, you were meant for more. Everyone probably has someone in their life. I remember it was my mom and my grandma, actually. They would always tell me like, oh, you're special. You're a special person. Everybody has that. Like somebody told you that you're special. And so it's like, are you going to let that person down, or are you going to like lean into that purpose and like fulfill what they said and prove them that they were right when everybody else thought otherwise? And so I think it's like the difference of the hoes and the bows. I like that terminology. It's pretty good. The hoes are just like, I think it's a very, it's kind of just like a fun thing, a little selfish act of just like, hey, I just want to make a couple extra bucks. That'd be cool if I can just like pay my bills or whatever. But maybe I love my job or whatever. But the bows, I think it really is like, it's kind of a jungle out there. I like to be straight with people, and some people, they want that, they love that, they're like all about it on how can I go and just like do something different. I'm willing to take on everything, but it's like, what's this life for anyways? It's like life is short. Like I might as well like maximize life. And so you can be the person that's sitting in the corner. There's nothing wrong with that. You'll probably get fed 3 meals a day. You'll be taken care of in some way, some shape or form. But if you're like me, and if you're like Brian here, where you're just like, that's not for me. I need something more in my life. I need something more fulfilling. I need more purpose. Then I think that's when people become a business owner, and they're like, hey, I want to get rich. I want to do something out of the norm. I want to stop having my schedule controlled by other people. I want to stop having my life controlled by other people, and instead, I want to take seat of the driver's wheel, and I want to drive the car to the destination of my own life.
Boom, Devon coming in hot. We are not just talking YouTube here. I think that it is completely evident why you are successful, not just with YouTube, but as a business owner, because that's the real stuff right there. There are so many nuggets of knowledge there. And I love the fact that it stems a lot from Myron Golden's teaching. That guy is brilliant. Every single video and speech that I see him give, I immediately transcribe, plug into AI, and I'm like, please help me extract all of the goodness from every single word that this man is saying. So Devon, you have offered so many insights here that I have no idea how you're going to top all of that for this question that I ask at the end of every episode, because it's super broad. I'd love for you to answer it with your entrepreneurial hat on, not just your YouTube hat. And that question is, what's your best piece of advice? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own business growth journeys, what's that one thing that you want to leave them with today?
Yeah, I think it's the failure thing. I think that like ruins everybody to the core, because we're so brought up on like, if you get bad grades, you're a failure. And it's just like, you're indoctrinated for at the minimum 12 years that failure is a bad thing. And what I will tell you is, if you're trying to do something different, if you're trying to do something new, it's that failure thing is good for like when, you're a factory worker, and obviously failure is the difference of whatever, thousands of dollars of product, millions of dollars of product getting ruined and stuff like that because you didn't do the assignment correctly. And there's repercussions there, maybe in like, in some industries. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to business, you're going to make mistakes, and mistakes are the biggest thing that you have as a resource to learn from. It's like, I think I lost like 20 grand last week from like some little mishap that we had. And I was just like, wow, this is the hard knocks of like learning. Okay, how can we make it so we don't like lose a bunch of money again in the future or whatever it is? And it's like, you kind of almost learn the importance of things through failure. And the failure doesn't always have to be yours. I will say that you can always learn through other people's failure. But if you're like me, you kind of have to like learn for yourself. Like don't stick your finger in the electrical outlet firsthand. But what I will say is like, failure is a good thing. I think we need to celebrate failure more. Like I always try inside, whenever I'm talking to clients or whenever I'm talking to people that work for me, I'm always like, I'm trying to cheer them on for whenever they eat shit, whenever they fail, because I want to like change the mindset. I want to change the paradigm that like failure is a bad thing, to actually like, failure is progress. Failure means that we learn something. It's like Thomas Edison took 1,000 light bulbs to find like a working light bulb. And there's thousands and thousands of these like case studies out there. People, is just like ridiculous amounts of failure led to success. And so the one thing I want to leave every single person watching this, whether you want to be a entrepreneur or entrepreneur, just failure is the light. It's the guiding force. It's good. It's good that you're failing. It's good that things are taking forever. It's good that you're kind of eating shit a lot of times and that you suck, because that means you can get better and there's ways to improve, and use that as your guiding force throughout all of this.
Yes, I love that. And Devon, fortunately, people get to learn from incredible entrepreneurs like you, not only here on the show, but what I really appreciate about the way that you operate is that you've got your free training video. It's out there for everybody. So if people are getting just their first taste of faceless YouTube automations here in this podcast episode, well, it can be the very beginning of their journey with you because of those free trainings that you have in abundance on the internet. I'm so grateful for the way that you show up and all the value that you give. So for listeners who do want to go deeper, drop those links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Where should people go? I think just look up Devon Canup on pretty much all platforms, and that'll get you going there. It's like Devon CNP on a lot of them. Just Devon Canup. Look it up. There's not too many people with my name. I think there's one other person on the internet.
And on top of that, Devon, we're going to make it as easy as possible for every single one of you listeners. Check the show notes down below, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. We are linking Devon. Like I said, he's got that free training video out there. We're linking not only to Devon's personal socials and all the ways that you can find him, his incredible YouTube channel where he also just shares his own real life business experiences, but we're also sharing a direct link to his free training. So definitely check out the links in the show notes down below. Otherwise, Devon, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.